The summer of 1974 brought with it one of Canada's most perplexing close encounter cases. In the quiet farming community of Saint-Cyrille-de-Wendover in the province of Quebec, an ordinary young couple would experience an extraordinary event that would leave physical evidence and raise questions that remain unanswered to this day. Mr. and Mrs. Langlois had just returned home from their vacation in Florida on the evening of July the 24th, 1974. The couple lived in a house trailer near Saint-Cyrille in Quebec, situated on a lot where other trailers had been installed, though the Langlois couple were the only occupants at the time. Travel-weary from their long journey, Mrs. Langlois had retired to bed early, leaving her husband alone in the living room watching late-night television. It was shortly after his program ended, at approximately 1:15 a.m. on what was now technically the morning of July 25th, when Mr. Langlois was preparing to join his wife in bed. That's when he heard it, a peculiar sound coming from outside. He would later describe it as a bum, bum, bum noise, much like something heavy falling repeatedly on the grass. The rhythmic thumping was unusual enough to draw his attention away from his nightly routine. Curious about the source of the disturbance, Mr. Langlois lifted the curtain in the living room and peered out into the darkness. What he saw defied immediate explanation. Hovering over the field to the northeast side of his house trailer was a reddish-orange round object, suspended just above the ground. The craft, as he would later describe to investigators, was domed, featuring red and white lights adorning its top section. Around the base, which glowed with an orange luminescence, oval-shaped white lights encircled the entire structure. Most striking of all were the yellow beams of light that the object cast downward onto the ground below. Shocked by what he was witnessing, Mr. Langlois rushed to the bedroom to wake his wife. As he did so, a new sound emerged, a distinct buzzing that seemed to herald the next phase of the encounter. When looked outside again, Mr. Langlois found himself face to face with something that challenged his understanding of reality. Standing within 15 feet of their trailer was what he could only describe as a robot-like creature, approximately 6 feet tall. The entity was unlike anything in Mr. Langlois' experience. Across his body were brightly glowing red horizontal bars, reminiscent of the heating elements in a toaster. The creature displayed no features resembling a face, mechanical or otherwise. Most disturbing of all was its method of locomotion. Rather than walking, the being appeared to float above the ground, moving in a stiff, unnatural manner. Now fully awake and equally shocked, Mrs. Langlois joined her husband in the living room. Together they witnessed an even more incredible sight. 3 additional robot-like beings had appeared close to an adjoining, unoccupied trailer. The creatures seemed to be conducting some form of examination, specifically focusing on the trailer's shaft and wheel assembly. Their movements were rigid and mechanical, reinforcing the couple's impression that these were not biological entities in any conventional sense. Fear gripped the couple. The sheer strangeness of what they were witnessing, combined with the proximity of these unknown beings to their home, left them terrified. They found themselves torn between the desire to keep watching and the instinct to hide. Ultimately, curiosity won out, though they limited themselves to occasional peeks through the windows to monitor the situation. What followed was an observation period that was stretched until 4:20 a.m, over 3 hours of sustained activity that would provide the couple with an unprecedented view of these mysterious visitors. During this time, the number of entities visible outside increased dramatically. At one point, Mr. and Mrs. Langlois counted approximately 15 of the robot-like beings arranged in a peculiar formation. The creatures had positioned themselves in a single line, parallel to a creek that ran near the property. This formation was maintained for over 5 minutes, during which time the beings remained perfectly still. Then, in the display that further convinced the couple of the non-biological nature of their visitors, all 15 entities moved simultaneously, as if controlled by a single mind or operator. The synchronized movement gave the distinct impression that these beings were remote-controlled, moving as one unit rather than as individuals. Throughout the encounter, the beings continued their mysterious activities around their trailer park. The Langlois observed them moving about the property, always maintaining their stiff mechanical gait and floating motion. The red glowing bars across their bodies remained consistently bright throughout the observation period, casting an eerie light in the darkness. The encounter finally came to an end in the early morning hours, though the exact manner of the entity's departure remains unclear. The available sources don't specify how the craft and its occupants left the scene, leaving this aspect of the encounter frustratingly incomplete. In the days following the incident, the Langlois began to learn that they might not have been the only ones affected by the events of that night. A local farmer reported having trouble with his dog on the morning after the encounter. The animal, which typically barked wildly at even the slightest provocation, had somehow managed to slip out of its collar and was found hiding, displaying uncharacteristic fear and avoidance behaviour. The physical evidence left behind would prove to be one of the most compelling aspects of the Saint-Cyrille encounter. Field investigator Rideau Hoville, working with colleagues Jean-Roy Marc Leduc and P. Blaquier, conducted a thorough examination of the area. Their investigation, carried out on behalf of the Aerial Phenomena Research Organisation, or APRO, would uncover multiple anomalies. Despite only one craft being observed by the witnesses, investigators discovered 3 sets of what appeared to be landing traces. The first set was located where the Langlois had observed the hovering object. The other 2 sets were found on the far side of the creek, in an area that would have been hidden from the couple's view by high bushes. Each landing site consisted of tripod-like imprints pressed into the ground, suggesting the craft had multiple landing struts or support structures. The landing areas exhibited a phenomenon common to many UFO landing cases around the world. The grass had been swept down in circular patterns, creating what investigators often refer to as saucer nests. These circular depressions were measured at 2 feet in width, with diameters of 19 feet. The grass within these areas had been swirled in a specific pattern, but showed no signs of burning or heat damage. By the time Mr. Hoville's investigation was conducted, the grass on both sides of the creek had been cut. However, the landing marks remained clearly visible due to an unusual growth pattern. The grass in the affected areas was growing at an accelerated rate, reaching twice the height of the surrounding vegetation. This anomalous growth pattern provided investigators with clear demarcation of the landing sites and added another layer of mystery to the incident. Perhaps most intriguing was the discovery of physical material left behind by the visitors. In the areas where the robot-like beings had been observed moving about, particularly close to the Langlois' prefabricated shed, investigators found several flat pieces of a strange substance. This material was white in colour and had a consistency similar to plastic. Samples were collected and forwarded to Dr. Walker, APRO's consultant in metallurgy, for analysis. The APRO Bulletin, in its Volume 23, No. 3 issue, from November to December 1974, would carry a detailed report of the incident. The organisation noted that such analyses were conducted on a volunteer basis by consultants who had primary obligation to their positions in industry or education. As a result, results from material analysis might not be immediately forthcoming. The bulletin also mentioned that since the beginning of the fall of 1973, a flap of UFO sightings, that is, the extended wave of UFO activity that characterised this period. Many samples of various kinds have been forwarded to headquarters, creating a backlog in laboratory work. The Saint-Cyrille encounter stands out in UFO research for several reasons. The duration of the sighting, over 3 hours, provided the witnesses with an extended opportunity to observe both the craft and its occupants. The number of entities observed, up to 15 at one point, represents one of the larger groups reported in close encounter cases. The physical traces left behind, including the landing marks, anomalous grass growth and recovered material samples, provide tangible evidence that something unusual occurred that night. The consistent description of the entities as robot-like beings with glowing red bars across their bodies and no features resembling a face suggests either a non-biological intelligence or beings wearing some form of protective suit or apparatus. Their strange floating movement and synchronized behavior when moving information raises questions about their nature and control mechanisms. The case was classified as a close encounter of the third kind, or CE3, under the Heine classification system, indicating the presence of animated entities in association with the UFO sighting. The special characteristics noted included physical traces, humanoid occupants, and animal reactions, all elements that elevate this case beyond the simple light in the sky report. For Mr. and Mrs. Langlois, what began as a quiet evening after returning from vacation transformed into an experience that would challenge their understanding of reality. Their detailed observations, combined with the physical evidence discovered by investigators, created a compelling case that continues to intrigue researchers 5 decades on. The Saint-Cyrille encounter remains unexplained. Despite the passage of time, no conventional explanation has been found that adequately accounts for all aspects of the incident. The extended duration of the sighting, the multiple witnesses, the strange appearance and behaviour of the entities, and the physical traces left behind. The investigation into the incident continues to be regarded as one of the more thoroughly documented cases from this period. The involvement of multiple investigators, the collection of physical evidence, and the detailed witness testimony all contribute to the significance in the study of anomalous aerial phenomena. Whether the visitors to Saint-Cyrille that summer night in 1974 were extraterrestrial in origin, representatives of an unknown terrestrial technology, or something else entirely, remains an open question.